With us now, North Dakota Republican Congressman Kelly Armstrong, who was there for that testimony today. Thanks for being here, Congressman. Really appreciate it. Director Wray also testified that the gunman went to a shooting range the day before the rally, probably with the gun he used to try to kill Donald Trump. Are you satisfied with what you heard from Director Wray and how forthcoming he was?
As somebody who's been incredibly critical of the FBI, DOJ, and Director Wray specifically, I will give him credit today. He came in. It's hard for them in the middle of an investigation to give you information. Perfect example is they talked about the message that was on a gaming console. Well, as they have found out later, that message was actually put on by somebody other than the shooter. And that's the risk you run when you do what they did. So I thought he was very forthcoming. I thought he was honest. I think he really wants to make sure that people get the information as quickly as he can get it to them.
Let me play a clip of something you asked the FBI director earlier today.
You're looking at his online and seeing all that, but there's no evidence he had any other accomplices on scene that day, correct?
Correct. Not that we've seen yet, certainly.
So no accomplices, apparently, as of what they know now, but you did express concern about all the conspiracy theories out there surrounding the shooting. Tell us about that.
Well, and I think that's why it's important to do this. I mean, and I think you start from the premise of that people in my state, and I think just the general public at large, cannot possibly comprehend how this was allowed to happen. And so by being honest, being forthcoming, and coming out with evidence, you run the you help us deliver the message. I mean, this is a terrible incident. It should have never happened. Biggest strategic failure probably since JFK. The last thing in the world we need is a vacuum of information where it gets filled by a lot of things that just quite frankly aren't true.
It just does seem stunning, though, doesn't it? I mean, the idea that like everything we have to go through just to get on an airplane, and what did not happen for people to get, within 500 yards of Donald Trump.
He was walking around with a rangefinder. People noticed him, then they lost him. We literally had a local cop peeking up over a roof. He climbed a drain pipe, and he got within 150 yards line of sight. People in the rally were pointing at him on the roof before everybody knows what's going on. That's what I mean. It's important that we get this information out. I mean, there are obviously Secret Service director resigned. I think there's going to be more accountability coming. You don't get Jamie Comer and Jamie Raskin to co-sign a letter very often in oversight, but it's really important to get this information out because it's almost hard to believe this was allowed to happen.
Director Wray revealed the shooter did that search for how far away was Oswald from Kennedy, referring to the JFK assassination. That makes the gunman's intention, I think, pretty crystal clear, don't you think?
Yeah, that was a pretty solemn. Just when that is how you're doing. I mean, and we don't know what his motives were yet. I don't think inferring anything into that, but obviously it's pretty clear he had. If the shot wasn't clear enough, we know that now.
Wray also warned lawmakers about the possibility of a foreign terrorist attack here in the U.S., even if this one was not related to a foreign entity. He said that it remains a real threat, a foreign-motivated attack. Take a listen.
We are increasingly concerned about the possibility not just of a foreign terrorist-inspired attack, which is very much a concern, but even the potential for a coordinated foreign terrorist attack, perhaps like what we've seen against the concert hall in Russia, for example, but just here in the United States.
Do you think that we in the United States and the government and the FBI and Homeland Security, et cetera, do you think we're paying enough attention to that potential threat?
No, I don't, and I really don't. And as somebody who represents a northern border state and recognizing that particularly, we know Iran's posture is aggressive. He testified to that today specifically, and knowing that, we're diverting 30 to 40% of our resources either on computers or actual physical staff to the southern border right now. When my friends and allies and neighbors in Canada, it's a lot easier to get into Canada from some of the places, from some of those countries than it is to get into the United States. So that was the last question I asked them. And we're not paying enough attention to it.
Lastly, I have to ask you, because the House is heading home tomorrow for the August recess, coming back after Labor Day, without approving all the spending bills needed to prevent a government shutdown in a couple months. What's going on? It seems like a kind of the dysfunction that we've seen from, I know you have a narrow majority, but it does seem like Republicans are having a tough time governing sometimes.
Yeah, and I would distinguish us passing our appropriations bills out of the House don't mean there's not going to end up being a CR in September either way. I don't think the Senate's moved a single appropriations bill right now. But, you know, when you're voting on 8, 10 amendments at 10 o'clock at night and then the underlying bill gets pulled, I don't think there's a real easy way to say that that means we're clicking on all cylinders right now. But this was always going to end up in a CR sometime around September 20th. That's where we were going to go. And so now get everybody home, maybe take a couple deep breaths and figure out how we keep the government funded through the election.
Congressman Kelly Armstrong, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Good to see you, sir.